What up, fam? Welcome back to another lesson with Mr. Biza. And in today's lesson, we're talking about the volume of spheres. So let's jump right into it. The formula of a sphere can be found by using the formula 4/3 times pi r cubed, or r to the power of 3. So we're going to look at an example using a sphere and a cylinder to kind of create an understanding of why do we have the formula 4/3 times pi r cubed. Alright, so here we have two different shapes. We have a sphere on the left and we have our cylinder on the right. They both have the same radius and the same height. So when I'm finding the volume of a sphere, and I'm going to start off by using the volume for our cylinder. So the formula for a cylinder is pi r squared times h. Pi r squared times the height. Now if I look at my sphere, that height, I can replace the letter h with two of our radiuses. Because remember, the radius is the distance from the center of our circle to the edge. So I have one of my radius, and if I go on the other side, I have the other radius. So there's two radiuses to go all the way across our circle, which is essentially just our diameter. So I use the formula pi r squared times 2r. Now when I have the volume of a sphere and the volume of a cylinder with the same radius and the same height, my formula is always going to be 2/3 the size of the cylinder. So I'm multiplying the formula by 2/3. So my formula becomes 2/3 times pi times r squared times our 2r. There's a whole lot of numbers that I have to deal with. So to make it a lot more easy for me to work with, my last step is to simplify it. And when I simplify all those numbers and I multiply everything together, I get the simplified formula 4/3 times pi times r cubed. So I can rewrite that so I have to not deal with that fraction. I can also say that that equals 4 times pi times r cubed, all divided by 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and use this formula to work on a couple of our problems. Alright, so here I have my perfectly drawn sphere. Couldn't have been drawn any better. So the first step I like to do when I'm figuring out these volume formulas is to set up a table. My formula in this problem is what we did before. We did 4/3 times pi r cubed. So that's our new formula that we're using to help us figure out the sphere. So after I have my formula written down, my next step is to substitute. Now I want to substitute so I don't make any mistakes. That's why I write the formula first, and then I substitute the numbers so I don't make any mistakes. So 4/3 and then for pi we're going to use the number 3, and then I'm multiplying or putting my radius to the power of 3. In this problem my radius was 3, so we're going to have 3 to the power of 3. Now before I go ahead and solve this problem, I can remember that I can rewrite this since it's 4/3 and I don't want to really work with any fractions. I just want to simplify this as fast as possible. What we can do is I can rewrite this so I divide the whole thing by 3 instead of having this fraction 4/3. So I would rewrite it as 4 times 3 times 3 to the power of 3, all divided by 3. A lot of 3's. Well, my last step now is to go ahead and solve it. So let's go ahead and do the math. Alright, so I went ahead and worked out the problem. Let's go ahead and figure out what did I do to help me solve this problem. So the first thing we did when we substituted is we rewrote it so that we're dividing by 3. So on this first step to solve it, I want to get rid of this exponent to the power of 3. So 3 times 3 was 9, and times another 3 would make it 27. So now I had 4 times 3 times 27, all divided by 3. So multiplying from left to right, 4 times 3 is 12. And then now I can have 12 times the 27. I couldn't do that in my head, so I had to go ahead and work on that math. So 27 times 12 equals 324. So we have 324, and I cannot forget about dividing by that 3. So 324 divided by 3, just going from left to right, 3 divided by 3 is 1. I can't divide 2 by 3, so that's 0. And now I have 24 left over, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So my answer for the volume of this sphere was 108. And my units are units cubed. They didn't tell me if it was in centimeters, they didn't tell me if it was inches, so I'm just going to write units cubed, because whenever I'm working with a 3D shape, my units will always be to the power of 3. A 3D shape to the power of 3. Alright, so let's go look at one more example. While I go ahead and work on that example, make sure to hit like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Alright, so in this example, I have a sphere. But in this sphere, instead of having the radius, I'm having the diameter shown. So it's not going from the center to the edge, it's going from edge to edge in a straight line. So I'm trying to figure out the volume. First thing I like to do whenever I'm figuring out the volume is to set up a table. Alright, so my table is I'm solving for a sphere. First step is to write down my formula, and we said for the volume of a sphere I want to use 4 over 3 times pi r cubed. Now remember, instead of saying 4 divided by 3 or 4/3 as my fraction, I can rewrite this whole thing as volume equals 4 pi r cubed, all divided by 3. Alright, now my next step after I find my formula is to go ahead and substitute. I'm still trying to find the volume of my sphere, so for the letter V, I'm going to write V again because I'm still finding the volume. 4 is still a 4. The letter or the symbol pi I'm going to use to represent the number 3. My radius in this problem is, I don't know what the radius is, I only know what the diameter. Diameter is going all the way across. Radius starts at the center and goes to the end of our circle over here. So that's going to be half of what 12 is. So half of 12 is 6, and that's going to be to the power of 3. And all of this is going to be divided by 3. And again, if you notice, I don't have any units, so we know our answer at the very end should be units to the power of 3. Remember that. Alright, so my last step now is to go ahead and solve this whole thing. Now let's go ahead and do the math. Starting from our substitution, we had 4 times 3 times 6 to the power of 3, all divided by 3. So the first step is I want to get rid of this 6 to the power of 3. So I'm going to get rid of my exponent first, working on that first. So 4 times 3 times, I really couldn't do this in my head, so I had to do a little bit of math on the side. So 6 times 6 was 36, times another 6. So 6 and 6 is 36, 6 is 18, plus 3 more makes 21. So 216, all divided by 3. Now multiplying from left to right, 4 times 3 was 12, then 12 times 216, again, another number that was pretty difficult to do in my head, so I worked it out on the side. 216 times 12, 2 times 6 was 12, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 more makes 3, 2 times 2 is 4. Now I'm going over to this tens place, so I have a placeholder at the 0, and multiplying everything times 1 will keep it the same, 6, 1, and then a 2. So now I'm adding those partial sums, and I end up getting 200 or 2,592. So now my answer that I got, I'm going to divide it by 3 to give me my final answer to figure out the volume of this sphere. And I ended up making it, because 25 divided by 3 gave me 8 with the 1 left over. 19 divided by 3 was 6 with 1 left over, and then 12 divided by 3 was 4. So my final answer was 864, and I never forget, since it's a 3D shape, that means my units have to be to the power of 3, units cubed. 864 units cubed. Alright guys, so if you found this video helpful, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and until next time, bye!